They say one mistake can change your life forever. For Maya, that mistake wasn't a crime or a betrayal or even a choice. It was nothing more than a scratch across a car so expensive she couldn't even imagine its price tag. A Lamborghini. And the man who stepped out of that car was Damian Rossi, a name that whispered power and danger across the city. She didn't know it then, but in that single instant, Maya's life was no longer her own. This is not just a story about debt. It's a story about fear, captivity, power, and the impossible choices we make when running is no longer an option. The rain was falling hard that night, blurring the glow of neon lights as Maya rushed across the parking lot, clutching an umbrella that did little to keep her dry. She wasn't rich, she wasn't powerful. She was just a delivery girl, exhausted after another long day. She only wanted to get home. But fate had other plans. Her elbow clipped against a sleek black car parked alone under a street lamp. The sound was small, just the faint scrape of metal against metal. But when she turned, her heart froze. A long white scratch ran across the side of a Lamborghini. Her stomach dropped. Repairing that car would cost more than she could ever dream of earning. For a moment, she thought of running, but it was already too late. The door opened, and he stepped out. Damian Rossi, tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes so sharp it felt like he could see right through her. A scar carved across his cheek like a warning. Maya had never seen him before, but she knew his type. Men whispered about in dark corners. Men you didn't cross. Do you know how much this car costs? His voice was calm, too calm. Maya stammered an apology, her words tumbling over each other. But Damian only smiled, not kindly, slowly. Then you'll pay in another way. By the next morning, Maya's world had changed. She wasn't at home. She wasn't at work. She was inside his mansion, an estate too large, too quiet, guarded by men who didn't smile. At first, she thought it was a nightmare. He had locked her away like she was nothing more than an inconvenience. But as the days passed, she realized something even more terrifying. Damian hadn't locked her away to punish her. He had locked her away to protect her, and that protection came at a price. There were rules. Don't wander at night. Don't ask questions, and never ever try to leave. Maya wasn't the type to obey quietly. Every door became a challenge. Every locked gate an insult. But every time she tested the boundaries, Damian was there, waiting, watching, reminding her in his quiet, commanding way that this cage, no matter how gilded, was now her reality. Yet it wasn't just the guards or the locked doors that unnerved her. It was the way Damian looked at her. Like she was more than just a debt. Like she was a piece on a chessboard he was determined not to lose. It wasn't long before Maya discovered why. One night, Damian brought her into a room filled with monitors, surveillance feeds from every angle of the mansion. And on one screen, in grainy black and white, stood a man at the edge of the gates, watching. Marco Valente, Damian's rival, a man whose reputation for cruelty made even Damian's guards uneasy. Marco didn't want the car. He didn't want money. He wanted her. Why me? Maya demanded. Damian's silence was the answer. He knew exactly why Marco had chosen her, but he wouldn't say. Not yet. If Marco wanted her, Damian had only one option: to turn her from prey into something harder to catch. Days turned into weeks. Maya found herself pulled into a world she never asked for. Combat training in hidden courtyards. The weight of a gun placed into her shaking hands. Guards testing her strength, pushing her to the ground, only for her to rise again. She hated it, feared it, but she learned. And slowly, something inside her shifted. She was no longer just a frightened girl scratching a car in the rain. She was someone who could stand her ground. One night, as Damian watched her steady her aim on the shooting range, she caught the flicker of something in his expression. Respect, approval, and maybe, just maybe, something softer. But Marco wasn't waiting. It began with a package, a box left at the gates with her name scrawled across it. Inside, nothing but a single photograph. A photograph of her taken weeks ago, walking home in the rain. She had been watched long before the Lamborghini. The message was clear. She was not safe here. She was not safe anywhere. That night, the mansion erupted into chaos. Alarms blared, men shouted, and through the smoke and gunfire, Maya saw him, Marco himself, stepping from the shadows, smiling as though this was a game. "Do you feel safe now?" he called out, his voice carrying over the chaos. "She scratches your car, Damian, and suddenly you bleed. All for her? Maya's pulse thundered. This was it. The moment everything came crashing down. And then Damien's voice cut through the storm. Stay with me. It wasn't an order. It wasn't a command. It was something else. For the first time, Maya didn't run. She lifted the gun Damien had given her, aimed at the approaching guard, and pulled the trigger. The world exploded around her. The battle ended in fire and blood. Marco escaped, but not without scars. His message was clear. He would not stop until Maya was his. Back inside the mansion, her hands still trembling from the recoil, Maya sat across from Damien at the long dining table. Between them, silence stretched like a blade. You wanted to leave, Damien said at last. You still can. She could. The gates were open now. She wasn't chained, but when she met his eyes, something inside her shifted. No, she whispered. I'm not running anymore. Maya's story didn't begin with love. It didn't begin with choice. It began with a scratch on a car. But by the time the storm passed, she was no longer just a delivery girl, no longer just a debt to be collected. She was part of a war, and deep down she knew one thing with chilling certainty. The scratch was never an accident. It was the beginning. And that's Maya's story. A girl whose life was stolen by a single mistake, and who discovered she was part of something much larger, much darker than she could have ever imagined. Would you have stayed like Maya, or would you have run the moment those gates opened? If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more cinematic storytelling, and hit the bell so you don't miss what comes next. Because sometimes, the wrong turn leads to the story you'll never forget.